these projects obviously require land, and where we live, we are certainly used to the makeup of ownership and management in this part of the world, and it's not uncommon that public land and private land is involved. And our next presenter on the panel is a private property owner, and to address wind energy in that regard, here's John Hay.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Al. In order to have this discussion, I need to talk a little bit about the land ownership pattern here, because it's really quite unique as compared to many other places. I represent Rock Springs Grazing Association. We have been in existence for over 100 years. And we came into existence because of the land grant and the opportunities that were presented by that. At the turn of the century, there were an awful lot of sheep that were coming across the Green River from the west and coming on to the Red Desert for winter use, and the numbers far exceeded what the resource could support. So the local sheep growers that had an interest in our area got together and formed a fairly loose organization to try to address that. The checkerboard pattern that exists out there comes about as a result of the land grant when this country decided they wanted to have a transcontinental railroad. And in order to entice Union Pacific to do that, they offered them every other section ground 20 miles either side of the track. And so given that private ownership that exists there, the local sheep operators got together with the UP and leased the private sections such that they would have an opportunity to control the area and reduce the amount of sheep that were coming on, and in turn preserve the resource. In 1907, the UP decided that they would start selling some ground, and so the Rock Springs Grazing Association incorporated at that time, such that they could participate in those purchases. Over the course of years, a great deal of that ground has been purchased, and we now have as partners in the Rock Springs Anadarko, who purchased Union Pacific Resource portion of this, and the Bureau of Land Management. The Bureau of Land Management has the even-numbered sections. The Rock Springs Grazing and Anadarko have the odd-numbered sections, and the sections that are not owned by Rock Springs Grazing are leased from Anadarko. In addition to that, Anadarko has all of the mineral estate. And so anything that we do on these grounds, we do in cooperation with the Bureau of Land Management and with Anadarko. It's very hard to have a project take place in this area without having that cooperative effort. It has worked very nicely over the many years that we have been in existence. As mentioned a moment ago, the association was put together with grazing as its primary focus. And that is, of course, what has taken place. It was sheep grazing that was the dominant use for the biggest part of the time this organization has been in existence. And then sometime in the 60s, some cattle use started, and that created some interesting discussions. The ownership of Rock Springs Grazing consists of 39 entities, all of whom are either in the sheep or the cattle business or formerly in the sheep and cattle business. The organization has many uses on the ground beyond grazing that we've been talking about. There is a great deal of wildlife out there. We have a number of wild horses. There is an awful lot of recreation that takes place on the Rock Springs, and we have an awful lot of infrastructure and other industrial uses along lines of oil and gas, coal, trona, fertilizer plants, pipelines, electric transmission lines, communication towers. We are most definitely a multiple-use organization. We have always tried to operate the organization with that in mind. Speaking in a little broader perspective for a moment, Wyoming, the state in which we all live and enjoy a very nice lifestyle, is entirely dependent on our resource base for its existence. We are not going to become the Silicon Valley. We do not expect a Ford plant to come and put a factory here. We are going to survive only if we take advantage of the resource that exists here. That is primarily coal, oil and gas, trona, and as of more recently, wind. The jobs that we all have, the jobs that we want our children to have, are entirely dependent on utilizing that resource. And so we, with the Rock Springs Grazing Association, do all that we possibly can to promote all of those uses, not just one use. As mentioned a moment ago, wind does happen to be one of the more recent resources, and we believe that it's going to be a terribly important one going forward. I don't believe it's in any way going to take the place of coal and oil and gas. It will be in addition to coal and oil and gas. As mentioned again, our president would like to have this country 20% reliant on wind energy by 2020, I believe, 2030. Today, the country is under 3% in terms of these renewable resources, and it will really be an awful lot of effort to reach the goal that a moment ago stated. As with oil and gas, you have to drill where the resource is, and with wind, you have to place towers where you have the appropriate wind regime. It happens that we have many places in Sweetwater County that provide that opportunity, and it would be the desire of Rock Springs Grazing for that to happen. We believe that wind farms are very good for this county. They provide a very nice tax base. They will provide jobs and opportunities at a time when the rest of our economy is slowing rather dramatically. It's anybody's guess how long we'll be in this slump, but if we could get a few of these projects going in the interim, that would be a huge benefit to our area. I believe in the long term, the wind energy that is created in our area will be nothing but positive for our people and those of us that depend on this economy.
Our next panelist